Hello everyone, my name is Jesse Barton and welcome to Film Talks, the channel where I love to talk about all things movies and TV. Black Panther Wakanda Forever has been out for a couple of weeks now, so now it's finally time for me to give you my review on the MCU's latest film. This will be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want to be spoiled, go watch the movie, then come back to this video. With all that said, let's get started. Before I get started talking about specifics, I have a few general thoughts on this film that I wanted to tell you about. My first thing is just, I thought the acting in this film was amazing. I think specifically Angela Bassett and Letitia Wright, who play Queen Ramonda and Shuri, do great jobs. I think Tenoch Huerta, I think I'm saying that right, does a great job as Namor. Namor is one of my favorite villains of Phase 4 and probably one of my favorite villains in the MCU. He does a great job in this movie. And just overall, everyone in this film gives a great performance. And just, this movie is overall just a more serious film that we normally see in the MCU. There is some humor sprinkled in the mix, but this is a more serious and emotional film than usual. Mainly focusing around mourning. The acting is great. The music in this film is, as it was in the first Black Panther movie, amazing. Ludwig Göransson, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but the composer does a great job. I love how they bring music back for several scenes in this movie. The scene when Ramonda and Shuri are sitting by the fire and Ramonda is trying to get Shuri to move on from T'Challa's death and trying to get her to burn the funeral gown to kind of move out of the mourning phase. The music from that scene comes back later during Queen Ramonda's funeral. I think that's really great. They also bring music back several other times in the film, both from the first Black Panther film and just from other scenes in this film. So the music is amazing, and I think overall, I do have mostly positive things to say about this movie, but I do have one big problem, and I think the movie is a little bit too long. It's 2 hours and 41 minutes. I think it's a little bit too long. I think they try and cram too many things in. I think they could have cut out a few things, or I think just a few scenes they could have shortened just a little bit. I think this movie could have been 10 to 15 minutes shorter and it would have been just fine. But those are my general thoughts on this movie. Now let's start talking about specifics. So the first specific thing I want to talk about is T'Challa's death and funeral, the opening scene of the film. And the film opens with Shuri in her lab, and she's trying to recreate the heart-shaped herb that's what gives the user the Black Panther powers. And she needs to recreate it because Killmonger burned all the rest of it in the first film when he became Black Panther, as just to make sure no one else could get it, so that he was the only Black Panther, all that. So Shuri needs to recreate a synthetic heart-shaped herb, and she's trying all these different ways, and the new AI that she's created tells her there's only a 29% chance that it's actually going to work, that it's going to create the herb, that it's going to save T'Challa. Because T'Challa is dying, so Shuri thinks recreating the herb will give him back his strength and will heal him. So she prints the herb, and she turns to go into the other room to give it to T'Challa, and as she's turning around, her mom, Queen Ramonda, is walking up to her, and she says, "T'Challa is with the ancestors. He has died." So T'Challa is now dead, and we move from there onto his funeral. And all the Wakandans are dressed in white, and they've made a casket for him with the image of the Black Panther showing the Wakanda Forever salute. And obviously Shuri is upset, she's sad, she's mourning for her brother, and she puts his helmet, she has the Black Panther helmet, she puts it next to the casket as kind of a way of saying goodbye to the Black Panther, and a Wakandan ship comes over and lifts up the casket, and as it's lifting up, it tilts forward, facing all the Wakandans, showing them that Wakanda Forever salute, and all the Wakandans follow that, giving the Wakanda Forever salute as their goodbye. And this funeral is very emotional, and I just think it's a great send-off for the character and for both I think it's a great send-off for both the Black Panther character and for Chadwick Boseman. And in this film, they never explicitly say what killed him. They never go too much into detail. All they say is it's an undisclosed illness. And I think that makes it much more personal, especially because that is the way we lost Chadwick Boseman, from an illness, from cancer. And so it's not some horrible injury he got from fighting a villain. It's not something supernatural or from some super powerful weapon. It's something as simple as an illness. And I just think it shows how vulnerable the Black Panther can be. He is stronger and faster than a normal human, but he's not invincible and he can be killed. So I just think making an illness that killed him makes it a lot more personal. And I love this scene. I think it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and it's great. I swear I wasn't emotional in that last scene because my mouth is super dry. So from there, let's talk about Shuri taking over, taking the place of Black Panther. And after T'Challa's funeral, the movie jumps forward 1 year later, and Shuri is still in mourning. She's not over T'Challa's death yet. And Ramonda goes to talk to her, and she brings up the Black Panther. She says, who's going to be the Black Panther? Who's going to protect us? And at this point in the movie, Shuri does not like the idea of even having a new Black Panther. She, of course, she doesn't want to think about having a Black Panther, let alone being the Black Panther herself. She says to her mom, when she was trying to recreate the herb, she wasn't trying to save the Black Panther, she was trying to save her brother. And her mom says something about the Black Panther being a tradition for generations. And Shuri says, we don't need a new Black Panther. It's a relic. It's in the past. We need new technology instead. And then, so for the first about half of the film, Shuri does not like the idea of having a new Black Panther because she's not ready to move on from T'Challa yet. And then you jump forward to the end of the movie, and she successfully creates a heart-shaped herb because Namor has just attacked. Shuri's mother is dead, so now she wants revenge. She needs to stop Namor from attacking again. And so she creates a heart-shaped herb successfully, and she takes the heart-shaped herb, she goes in the ancestral plane where she meets Killmonger, which I think is a great scene. The scene where she's talking with him is great. It's fantastic to see the return of Killmonger, even just for a few minutes. And that conversation that they have in the ancestral plane completely sets up the entire rest of the film, with Killmonger asking her, are you going to be noble? Are you going to be a good person like your brother? Or are you going to kill Namor? Are you going to take care of this and stop this before it can happen again? And so Shuri's now taking the place of Black Panther, and I think she does a really good job of taking the place. I think she's great. She wants revenge, and in the final battle, with the final confrontation with her and Namor, they both land solid hits on each other. Namor stabs her at one time, and she's about to kill him. And instead, she asks him to yield, and both of their homes can be in peace. She doesn't want to kill him. She just wants the fighting to end. And she ended up being a good person in the end. So I think Shuri does a really great job of taking the place of Black Panther in this movie. Whether she will return as Black Panther in another movie, or whether it'll be someone else. I'll talk about more on that later. But either way, I think she does a great job in this movie. Now let's talk about our two new characters in this movie, Namor and Ironheart. And I'll start with talking about Namor. I think Namor is one of the best villains in Phase 4, and I think Tino Huerta does a great job in the role. And his character can switch really easily in this movie from being really fun and friendly to being really intimidating and threatening. And it makes for a very interesting character, and this movie kind of shows that he doesn't want to be the bad guy. He doesn't want to be a villain that kills people for no reason. He's just doing what he thinks he needs to protect his home and his people. And so his agenda in this movie is revealed almost immediately. He needs to kill this scientist, Riri Williams, Ironheart, because she built a vibranium detector for a school project, and the CIA is using it to mine vibranium from Talokan, that's Namor's home, and it's hurting Namor's home and people. So he thinks that because Ironheart is the one that made the machine, that she is to blame and she's the one that needs to die. So Namor goes to Shuri and Ramonda with this premise when they're at the fire and talking about T'Challa. He goes to them and he talks to them and he says, "You can help me find this scientist, catch the scientist, help me kill this scientist, and we can be friends, our homes and our people can be friends, and we can both live in peace, and nothing bad has to happen, nobody has to get hurt. Or I'll do it by myself, and if you don't help me, I'll go to war with Wakanda." He doesn't want to be the villain. He is trying to come to an agreement. He's just doing what he thinks he needs to. He has an agenda on his mind, and he's gonna accomplish it no matter what it takes. And so this movie, I think, does a really good job of establishing and developing this character. We know his backstory, we know where he came from, we know his motivation, and this movie makes him a really compelling character. I love Namor. That's it. I love Namor. I think he's a great character, a great villain, and this film does a really good job of making him a fun character. So now let's talk about Ironheart, Riri Williams. I have been interested to see what they were going to do with this character ever since the trailer came out showing her, and I thought she was a fun side character in this film. She had a good balance of screen time. I thought she wasn't in it too little to the point where it felt like a waste that she was in the movie, and it didn't feel like she was overstaying her welcome, being in this film too much, and kind of dominating over some of the other things in this film. I just thought she had a really good balance of screen time. It was just enough to the point where you could say, yeah, I enjoyed that character, I'd want to see more of that character. Or if you didn't really like her in this film, then maybe her character just isn't for you. That's alright. She has her own Disney Plus show coming out in a couple of years, and this movie made me more excited to see that show. It made me want to see a little bit more of her character. She had a few of her own jokes sprinkled in there. She had some fun, she had some humor, and overall I thought she was an enjoyable character. There's one last thing that I want to talk about before I end this review, and that is what could be next for Black Panther. And this is where I want to talk about the mid-credit scene. There's one mid-credit scene at the end of Black Panther, and it picks up right where the movie left off, with Shuri sitting in front of the fire, and she's just burned her funeral gown that her mother was trying to get her to burn at the beginning of the film, and she's finally over T'Challa's death. She's finally out of the mourning phase. She's still upset, but she's over it now, pretty much. And Nakia comes over with a boy, and we don't know who the boy is. They sit next to Shuri in front of the fire, and it's revealed that the boy is T'Challa's son, Prince T'Challa. And then after this scene, at the very end of the movie, there's not a post-credit scene. It's just a little thing that pops up on the screen saying Black Panther will return. So from there on, I can see a few different ways they could take this, and a few different things on what could be next for Black Panther. I have two different ideas. One is they could have another solo film with Shuri and the other Wakandans training young T'Challa to be Black Panther, kind of teaching him the ways of Wakanda, and with Shuri still being Black Panther for that film, and then young T'Challa can take her place either at the end of that film or in a post-credit scene of that movie. Or another way they could do is they could have another movie set 1 or 2 decades after this film with young T'Challa already as Black Panther, and he'll have to take on an enemy of his own. And I could also see Shuri coming back in another team-up movie like Avengers King Dynasty that's coming out in a couple years. Young T'Challa may make an appearance in one of those too. I don't know. Those are just my ideas. Neither one of them is probably right. But those are my ideas on what could be next for Black Panther. And that is my review for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any more videos coming out. Let me know what are your thoughts on Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and where would you put it in your MCU ranking? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next review.